We are going to have a fascinating chat this morning here on the Radio Ritas. Maureen Langan.
Diane Diamond.
About Jehovah's Witnesses. I know many times growing up, my mother in the kitchen ducking, tell them I'm not home. You know?
Don't answer the door.
Yeah. You may not open the door for them, but they have been opening the door for you and me and our civil rights for a number of years. So surprised to know this. And on May 22nd, PBS will air a show called Knocking, which explores the often misunderstood world of Jehovah's Witnesses. And joining us to talk about this is a journalist. He wrote and narrated the film Knocking. He contributes to USA Today newspaper. He grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. He has left it behind, and he's here today to give us an insider's look into this interesting, fascinating world. We welcome this morning Joel Engardio. I have to ask you, it's Maureen here, Joel. So glad to have you here today because I just am fascinated by Jehovah's Witnesses, and I want to ask you, what is the biggest misconception that people have or misperception that people have of Jehovah's Witnesses?
I think a big misconception is that they actually relish knocking on your door. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses are human beings like everyone else, and they have fears and shyness, and they do it because they feel like they're commanded to do it by Jesus. But, you know, think about how you would feel knocking on strangers' doors in every neighborhood in town.
Yeah.
It's not a fun, exciting experience. Sometimes it takes every fiber in their body to get up the courage to knock on your door.
You know, Joel, I was reading something you wrote, and you said that when you were in preschool in Saginaw, Michigan, 4 years old, you began going with your mother to knock on doors and pass out literature. And, I mean, I was stunned that you were so young. Is that normal?
Yeah. The children go with their parents from a very young age. So it really trained me to be a journalist because it gave me a thick skin. Because if you're 5, 6, 7 years old and the door is being slammed in your face and people are yelling at you to get off the porch, you're pretty fearless. I can talk to anyone, even radio shows and at 4:06 in the morning.
Oh,
no problem.
God bless you. And you said at the age of 4, even at the age of 4, you began to understand, and all Jehovah's Witnesses knew when people were inside the home but hiding.
Yes, that was the joke. Home but hiding. We know.
How do you know? How do you know?
Well, we can see you peeking through the curtains, and we know when you're mowing the lawn down the street, and then when we get to your house and it's empty, you know, we know that you've hidden in the garage. Well,
the ironic thing, Joel, if I may say so, we're speaking with Joel Engardio. He is the writer, the narrator, the filmmaker of Knocking, an insider's look at Jehovah's Witnesses airing on PBS later this month, May 22nd. The ironic thing is you knock every day, but then Halloween comes, there's no knocking.
That's right. No.
A little ironic, isn't it? God gives, God takes.
No trick-or-treating for me when I was growing up.
So explain that.
Right.
Myth or truth? No celebration of birthdays, Christmas, holidays? Explain what you do and don't celebrate and how.
Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses, everything that they do has to be based from the Bible. So when they read the Bible, they say, well, I don't see any stories where Jesus celebrated his birthday, so we won't do the same. As far as Christmas, they say, well, look, December 25th, that's not really when Jesus was born. That was some Roman holiday that was co-opted or Christianized, and then you've got your Santa Claus and your tree and all these other pagan instruments and the commercialization. They say, well, it would offend Jesus, but we're not going to do it. So they try to just stick to what the Bible says.
Well, that must have been hard for you as a child, seeing other children celebrating major holidays. How was that for you?
Oh, yeah. In elementary school, I had to go sit in the library while the kids had their Christmas party.
Oh.
So it wasn't fun. But, you know, if that's the worst thing you have to endure as a kid, it wasn't that bad. And that was back in the 70s and 80s. You know, nowadays, everything's multicultural and, you know, the schools, you know, it's much easier, I think.
Let me ask you, Joel, when a Jehovah's Witness come knocking on my door, what is motivating them? What do they want from me? Do they want to sign me up into the religion?
Well, what's interesting is that Jehovah's Witnesses, it's not a quota system. They don't get brownie points for the certain number of converts they get. So the knocking, the motivation is really this commandment that they say that Jesus gave to, you know, be disciples, go out and spread the good news, you know, and so they feel as long as they are telling people about God's purpose, then that's fulfilling to them. They feel like, you know, all the world's problems are going to be solved when God's new kingdom comes. They want to tell people about it. That's their version of activism, and that's one reason I didn't become a Jehovah's Witness, you know, when I became an adult. I always say with my mom, well, you feel fulfilled because you're saying that the solution's coming soon, and I felt like, well, I'd like to try to do something now to help solve the world's problems, and one of the routes was to become a journalist.
And you broke your mother's heart, you said.
I broke my mother's heart, I know.
We're speaking with Joel Engardio. He is the writer and narrator of a PBS special called Knocking, which explores the inside world of Jehovah's Witnesses. You chose to leave the religion, but I understand, truth or not, that the religion will shun one who does not maintain it or keep a part of it. Has your family shunned you?
No, I wouldn't say that I left the religion. I never joined. So
how could you not join? Oh,
if you're raised in the religion, you're not automatically a member.
Oh.
So you aren't, there's no infant baptism or anything like this. You have to, at a cognizant age, you have to decide whether you want to join or not. Because it's such a rigorous thing to be a Jehovah's Witness. They don't take it lightly. You can't just. There's no doorstep conversion. You have to. Sometimes it takes 6 months to a year before they'll even let you in. So
even though you were going door to door at the age of 4, Joel, you never then took the official step of joining.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to do the full water immersion baptism, and you have to answer a bunch of questions, and it's
Well, let me ask you this, Joel. It's Maureen here.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading where, while we may not open the door for you at times, that you, Jehovah's Witnesses, have opened the door for us, for mainstream people, for other religions, through some court battles, through civil rights. How have you helped us?
Since the 1930s.
That's right.
Yeah.
How?
Well, but up until the 1930s or 40s, the First Amendment, right, our free speech, hadn't really been crystallized. I mean, there's so much in our Constitution that never really was implemented, as we know, for all kinds of groups and people. And so it was Jehovah's Witnesses who first started pushing buttons and pushing the limits of what is religion and what is free speech. And so they landed in a lot of trouble because they were knocking on doors and people were really offended by this. And they were saying things that were considered blasphemy. And so they had these early pioneering cases where the court finally ruled on the First Amendment and said, no, religion should be free to speak. You should all, and then that applied to all groups. And then what happened was, when the modern civil rights movement began, there were some precedents already, and those were Jehovah's Witness cases.
Yes.
And so upon the Jehovah's Witnesses, women, African Americans, gays and lesbians, everybody built on that. And that's the wonderful irony, is that Jehovah's Witnesses are social and moral conservatives, and yet groups they disagree with benefit from their case law.
Isn't that, it's so amazing, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't stand up and say, hey, credit us, because look what we've done. We've argued 62 cases before the High Court.
Exactly.
The only other entity that has had that many cases before the U.S. Supreme Court is the U.S. government.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And what the other thing that I love is that though the Jehovah's Witnesses are social conservatives, and you can't be gay, you can't get an abortion, a woman can't be a religious leader, that stays within their congregation. They don't go around legislating or advocating for their beliefs for everybody else.
They live it.
It's all about
themselves.
a choice.
Mm-hmm.
They speak their belief, but you have to decide if you want to join or not. But they won't go behind your back and amend the Constitution.
We're speaking with Joel Engardio. He is a journalist, USA Today. He also grew up in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses, and he is the narrator, writer, filmmaker of a PBS special called Knocking, which airs on May 22nd, 10 p.m. Eastern. Check your local listings. I got to ask you, the Knocking explores the often misunderstood world of Jehovah's Witnesses. Tell us more about the documentary. Those who tune in tonight, what will they see?
Well, the documentary gives you, you might say, oh, boring PBS documentary. So, so it gives you some of the history and the facts, but really it's more of a almost like a theatrical piece, because I follow two Jehovah's Witness families who are kind of going through the crucible, so to speak, because one of the theologies of the witnesses is they don't accept blood transfusions. And so I follow a family and a young man who, without a blood transfusion, will die.
Oh, my.
And so, but the irony here is that Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not anti-medicine, anti-doctors. They want to do everything they can to survive without the blood. So therefore, they've championed all this new medical technology. So we follow how this family finds a hospital, and there are these willing guinea pigs to do this experimental surgery, which in turn will benefit everyone else because of the new technology that's developed.
And who's the other family that you follow?
And the other family is a Holocaust survivor who saw Jehovah's Witnesses in the concentration camps, and now he has decided he wants to convert to become a Jehovah's Witness. He was so enamored by their stand, because what happened in the Holocaust was that they are apolitical. They won't fight. So they were Germans who refused to join the Nazi Party. They refused to fight for Hitler, and so Hitler threw them in the concentration camps. But they were voluntary prisoners, because if they renounced their faith, they could be free, but they refused.
Joel, as I hear you say this, I'm getting goosebumps. It sounds like you still have a lot of pride in the Jehovah's Witness community. Might you go back and join?
No, the theology is not for me. I don't agree with their social stands as far as women are concerned, or gays and lesbians. But I do respect the fact they have a right to believe what they want, and I really respect the fact that they're apolitical. They truly keep religion out of politics, and that's the way America's supposed to work.
How refreshing.
It is refreshing. And, I mean, you speak openly about it in your writings. You happen to be gay.
Right.
So that probably wouldn't jive well.
Exactly, right.
I'm just saying. I'm just noticing the facts here. Joel, fascinating stuff. And one quick question. I take it then Jehovah's Witnesses don't fight in our army and our armed services here in America,
Oh,
right?
definitely not.
No.
Yeah, no war. They're very apolitical.
Well, I love that you came on and talked to us about it. I can't wait to watch your documentary. I know it's going to be riveting. Knocking. It's on PBS on May 22nd, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Check your local listings. Again, we thank Joel Engardio for giving us an insider's look at the world of Jehovah's Witnesses.
That was really interesting. I learned a lot.
Love it.
I do,
All right,
too.
stay with us. We are the Radio Ritas, Maureen and Diane.
That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight.
They're your new best friends, the Radio Ritas.
Trying to keep